In 2019, Yamaha introduced the CP2 engine Tenere 700, carving out a new niche in the mid-sized dirt-focused ADV motorcycle market. It quickly became the most sought-after mid-sized ADV bike among riders. Riders clamored to get their hands on one, pre-ordering and waiting months for the bikes. In fact, there's still a waiting period in many places for the Tenere 700. It was so successful that KTM distanced their more expensive and heavier 790 models from the T7 by literally killing them off and repositioning their adventures up to the 890cc category. Yamaha had essentially created a new market of mid-sized, cheaper but capable dirt-worthy ADV bikes all to themselves. This caught Aprilia's attention, and they of course have since released an even more capable 660cc Touareg to rave reviews. See my link above for details on that bike. But not one to sit on their laurels. Yamaha revealed a Tenere 700 Rally Raid concept prototype bike at EICMA in the fall. Among many changes, the prototype Tenere Rally Raid 700 featured Paris-Dakar styling, a raft of enhancements to the bodywork, and performance upgrades for the engine, brakes, and suspension. The Rally Raid had massive 48mm KYB fully adjustable front forks with 10.4 inches or 270mm of travel, upgraded significantly from the stock bike. It also came with a new rear shock and linkage, a larger capacity radiator and oil cooler to handle the increased power output of the upgraded CP2 engine. With an Akropovich full exhaust, higher spec 300mm front brakes, and steel braided lines, the new Recluse clutch and lever comboed bike at EICMA was incredibly light and fast. As mentioned, the bodywork was reworked to allow a broader front, a low-level dual-cell saddlebag tank with an integrated crash protection built into the design, with cast protectors covering the widest and most vulnerable parts of the tank. A second fuel tank is mounted in the rear subframe, like the optional one on Ducati's Desert X, link above. The Rally Raid prototype was a serious off-road bike, likely capable of giving the heavier KTM 890 Adventure R a clean pair of heels in the rough stuff. But, as is often the case with prototype concepts, we were warned that these were race bikes only, and that they would not be offered as stock for sale to the public. Some performance parts would be available to current Tenere owners though, through Yamaha's genuine Yamaha Technology Racing Parts program, and could be added piecemeal to a stock T7. And so it came to pass, as the new Tenere 700 is released in 2022, we see all it really comes with is new paint, with Europe getting a heritage version with an added paint scheme, gold wheels, an Akropovich exhaust, LED flashes, and a heavy-duty skid plate. But hold on. Before you deflate completely, there is some hope. Yamaha has just filed a patent with pictures of a new bike. It appears Yamaha are one step closer to launching a production version of the Rally Raid called simply the Tenere 700 Raid. The Tenere 700 Raid appears to have longer range, better protection, and more tech than the standard model. While not exactly a Rally Raid concept, it shares very similar bodywork. As is the case with prototypes, many of the more extreme race components have not made it to the Tenere 700 Raid. But what does seem to have made it onto the future model, based on the patent photos anyway, are the prototype's low-slung saddlebag fuel tanks with dual fuel cells, which appear sizable and are situated low and forward of the traditional center-mounted tank, each with its own fuel filler cap. The images don't show the rear-mounted auxiliary tanks that we saw on the prototype, but perhaps they will be available as an option like the Ducati's Desert X does. The added fuel capacity is something owners and prospective buyers have been asking for on the stock T7. The standard bike has a capacity of 16 litres, which is adequate but not sterling. And while there's no way to tell how much additional capacity the oversized tanks will provide, judging by the larger dimensions, this is a 20 to 24 litre tank, which would put it on a par with BMW's F850 GS Adventure, and given the excellent fuel economy of the CP2, that will give it a heck of a range. A new rally-style seat stretches far up the tanks, allowing for more shifts in weight and riding position. Foot pegs are wider than stock, with serrated edges and no rubber inserts are visible. The fairing on the Raid extends downward around the dual tanks to frame the standard T7 radiator, blending with a substantial skid plate that protects the engine and exhaust. There are frame-mounted bumper-style crash guards that integrate into the bike's large side panels for a cleaner look and lighter weight than standard bolt-on crash protectors. There is a larger and taller rally-style windscreen and wing light side panels wrapping around the stock headlamp to create more comfort and protection for the rider as well. There's an indication of a larger vertically positioned color TFT to replace the current base model's small monochrome LCD screen. It's hard to see the switchgear, but given the extra range and TFT screen, you'd expect something that many ADV riders scream out for: cruise control. There's no acro exhaust or high fender, but they may be options. The lack of the oversized radiator suggests the engine is the stock CP2, which is not a bad thing. The suspension and brakes look to be the same dimension as stock, but that's not to say they won't be upgraded before the model is ready for production. I suspect the patent photographs are more about bodywork and engine integration, while details like brakes and shocks are at best conjecture right now. But you'd have to say carrying extra fuel and bodywork would likely demand upgraded suspension and brakes, which are two areas the stock bike often gets criticized for. What isn't revealed by the patent images is when the bike will be available in dealerships, or its price. It's clear the Tenere 700 Raid is at a late stage of development, so I would guess we will see this longer range version at dealers by late fall 22 or more likely early spring 23. But who knows, it could even be earlier than that. As for price, well, I'd be astounded if it was cheaper than the base T7, which is priced at $10,300 US. I'd be expecting $11,000 to $12,000 US, depending on whether upgraded suspension and brakes are incorporated into this new Raid version. I think Yamaha are onto another winner with this Raid version of the already hugely popular T7. Personally, I hope they offer it with upgraded suspension and brakes like on the Rally Raid. I'd love to know what you think of Yamaha's Tenere 700 Raid. Is the added range, low-slung dual fuel tanks, bodywork, TFT, longer seat, wider foot pegs and larger windscreen enough to tempt you from your KLR 650, V-Strom 650, KTM 890 Adventure or bigger ADV bike? Or are you left wanting guarantees that the suspension and brakes are up-spec'd as well? What would you like to see from the new Tenere 700 Raid? It's certainly not too late to let Yamaha know. It's another great option, and my only wish is that this inspires Yamaha and other manufacturers to offer us lighter, smaller capacity, longer range and more off-road capable rally-style ADV bikes, say in the 450 to 500cc range. Whatever your opinion, give me your feedback in the comments below. I guarantee I read all of them.
Once again, thanks for watching everyone. If this is the first time you've watched, please consider subscribing. I do product reviews, motorcycle reviews, off-road and on-road vlogs, as well as tours. Don't forget to follow me on social media, that's Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and to like, and especially, I'm begging you here folks, subscribe. This is the BlueMarbleRider, out.